September 10th, 2004. It is 5:30 and I'm calling this meeting to order. So first order of business is announcements. Are there any announcements? Okay. Item number 2, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Yes, Daryl.
Daryl Cook, South Walnut Street. Please don't approve any plans that you aren't sure have enough parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you. Okay, and the next item is reports. We have one, the information technology draft budget presentation for 2025.
Okay, it's about to get exciting. So this is the technology budget, and I want to talk a little bit about what we do. So, of course, technology is the foundation of how our organization works, communicates, and evolves over time. Our services rely on networking infrastructure, front end, hardware, connected devices, software, mobile services, and much more. The technology staff provides support to all of our departments and staff, regardless of the day of the week or the time of day. Just ask the police department. Cybersecurity strategy, something that's very important. This is our cybersecurity redundancy strategies include state-of-the-art tech solutions, monitoring, investigation, remediation, and very importantly, organizational-wide training. So I broke this down into 3 sections. The first section is our operations budget, things outside of capital. And something I wanted to say to start this off is, it is challenging to reduce cost in operations because this is where our services and software and hardware, communications, contracts, licensing, all these things are required to meet our mission effectively and securely. It's very difficult to reduce that. However, we do work very hard to do that, to reduce it whenever we can. And I think it's important to find out how we got here from there. So I'm just going to go all the way back to 2020 real quickly. So in 2020, when the COVID hit, the IT budget was reduced by almost $43,000. 2021, we continued to coming out of that pandemic and our budget was still reduced. And of course, this has a longer term plan, a longer term effect when you're reducing budgets. You got to come back and do these things later. So beginning in 2022, we began working on our hardware infrastructure. 2024 was a quiet year. This year we didn't do a major project. There's a couple we did, but nothing super expensive. And next year in our operations, I have a new cybersecurity initiative that I think is important and an additional service coming out of our website, which I think is exciting. We'll talk about that later. This could be a daunting slide, but it really isn't. I just want to give you an overview of this is our complete budget in the IT department. And you can see in 2025, there's a slight increase here. It says, wow, the operations budget is slightly increased from 2024. And that's really based on some licensing and 2 new initiatives. The capital budget is being reduced, leading to an overall budget reduction in 2025. And we'll talk more about that later. And just real quickly, I have here, you can always look at these later. These are just describing what all those line items are, like on-premise, remote and remote backup services. I'm not going to go through all these, but you can see access points and connectivity, warranties, certain services. Adobe Creative Cloud licensing is beginning to eat more and more of our budget. What used to be free with them is now expensive, but we do need that service. Advanced threat protection, antivirus, firewall, and now penetration testing starting next year. And out of our cybersecurity budget, our website, that has been increased a little bit to account for a new initiative I would like to try next year. Training and certifications are important, and of course, the backbone is the Microsoft 365 services. That includes not only our Microsoft, it's not just email, it's Microsoft Teams, this is where a lot of our data lives and how the departments collaborate together. And it's also our voice services. We're on voice over internet using Teams. We don't use conventional phone lines. So I think Sean even mentioned it the other day when we were talking about it. That's pretty good value for what we're getting out of Microsoft. To talk about our operations highlights, to give you an overview, 50% of our budget is operational. These are our day-to-day things we do. 30% is cybersecurity and 20% is disaster recovery. Next year, we plan on adding penetration testing. This is where we use white hat hackers to look at our network for vulnerabilities, and that allows us to prepare for cyber threats in the future and see where we stand today. We did do one of those earlier this month, and we're evaluating that now. Smart planning and investment. The operational budget remains consistent from year to year because I believe of the smart planning. Continued website services. We are planning to add an additional website service next year that would enhance our community engagement by improving our agenda and meeting management services. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Something I'm excited about to try. Enhance agenda and meeting management services. And I think everyone realizes this is probably a good thing to try to do. So included as part of the 2025 operations budget you see is the addition of an all-encompassing agenda and meeting management software solution designed specifically for government by Civic Plus. This new enhanced agenda meeting management solution will be seamlessly integrated into our website, which will improve our residents' experience as well as the productivity of our staff. For example, all these agendas that you see now, and we have to go over to you have your agenda and then you have your attachments. If you're looking at an agenda item with this, right in that agenda item, there's links directly to your attachments. You're no longer searching in another folder to see if it matches up with. That's one small thing, but I think it's important. So with this, we will be able to automate manual tasks with full control and reduce the time spent creating agendas from days to minutes. I don't believe that's an exaggeration. I even say it there. That's awesome. We will be able to centralize the experience for our residents while improving cross-departmental collaboration for our staff. Again, I think that's pretty awesome. Accessing attachments and documents will be easier than ever before for our residents and us, for our elected officials. It will be easier than ever before to find agendas, minutes, and related documents. We'll be able to connect our meeting recordings, even though they're on YouTube, directly to our minutes. So if someone's reading minutes, they'll have access to the recordings right from there. Just trying to streamline that service and make it easier for elected officials, staff, and our residents.
Bill, can I ask a question real quick about that?
Shoot.
So what happens to all of our archived materials? Will they get reorganized into this new platform? Or will we be on two platforms then?
They will probably live in the archive. And right now, we really don't have a platform. We do have an agenda center and a calendar. Our agendas live in the agenda center. That will continue. So even on the new platform, the agendas are going to live in the agenda center, where they are now, but the residents won't see it that way. They're just living there. Our documents and our attachments are simply sitting in a document center that we designed. We took our document center and kind of created folders for each month and the committee meetings. That would be replaced, but the older meetings would probably have to stay there archived, the way they are today. And then moving forward, it would be more of an automated, integrated solution.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm not shy. You can stop me from talking at any time. I don't take it the wrong way. So capital is a very important part of our budget. And you can see the lines going up and the lines going down. That's year-to-year trends. But unlike operations, we have much more control over our capital budget. It is through smart long-term planning and strategy that costs can be effectively controlled and even reduced from time to time, as it will be in 24 and 25. And that is because these are projects, infrastructure costs, and if you plan them out, you're going to have dips where you don't need to do these things. And we're kind of in one of those dips right now. Once again, I'd like to go, how did we get here today? So again, I start with 2020 and 2021 were really hard times for the IT budget. So a lot of things that were planned to get done and projects were just simply put on hold. 2022, equipment that had previously been accounted for in the operations budget was moved to capital. Things like computers and workstations and things and switches, they were all in operations. Now they're sitting in capital. These things were important to understand because like, how did that number go up? Well, it went up because it went down there, type of thing. 2023, and that's why I have this little bracket here, and 2024, these were both basically 2-year projects in which we purchased and programmed and set up new servers, new virtual servers. Network switches, we got about 21 of them, so that was a 2-year span of time. And of course, workstation upgrades is something that are always happening over a planned schedule. Also this year, we also did the acoustical treatment in the Borough Council chambers. In 2025, we're going to talk about some audio improvements in the council chambers as a capital project. So here in 2025, the capital projects I have, there's only 2. They're workstation upgrades and audio improvements in Borough Council. And that is basically overhauling the microphone solution and how these, which have served us very well. Barodynamic, who makes this hardware, doesn't even make microphones anymore. So we really have to take a hard dive at that. I got some good pricing, so that's built into the capital budget for next year. So because of smart investments and long-range planning, the IT capital budget is expected to see controlled and reduced spending between 2027 and 2029. You can see that on the plan up there. Next year, the reason that I have the capital budget a little higher next year is because I think it's important to at least try to improve the audio recording, streaming options in our other public meeting rooms. Like so in the 232 and the 240, that if there are important meetings that some of these boards or commissions are having, they have the ability to record and stream as well. So that can be expensive, and that's why it's in 2026. And you can see here the trend of the capital budget going down from 26 through 2029. And that's including perhaps improving those meeting rooms. 2025 capital highlights, audio improvements for the Borough Council chambers, of course, and our scheduled workstation replacements. And that's $35,000 total. Then if you combine the two, the capital and operations, so by managing the operations and capital budgets with a coordinated strategy, the total budget for the department can be controlled and even occasionally enjoy reduction, as it will during the next 2 years. Between 24 and 25, that is. And this is another look at the overview of our 25 capital operations budget. And you can see compared to 2024, when you look at operations and capital, hey, we're going down $657. I'm doing my best over here. But that's better than going up $657. I think we have some exciting things to do next year. Where are our IT dollars going? These are some of our most important technology partners. If you have any questions about any of those partners, be sure to ask me. I don't want to go through all of them, but they all have a unique place in what we do here. And again, I have a nice little graph just showing you how we are spending our IT dollars. And you can see 50% is operational, but we are investing a lot in protecting the organization from cybercrime, doing our best. And again, this has been consistent year after year. This is from last year, the total IT budget. And here I do include staffing, although I don't have the number here, but it's 2% or less of the entire borough budget is going into the IT department. That's not expected to change next year. And then the staffing, I went to note because I forgot to put there earlier, just no staffing changes. Just the two of us are plenty. We have a good team. Sorry if I talk too much. If I know. Any questions, I'm here for you.
I don't have any. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, very thorough. You answered most of my questions in later slides.
Thank you, Brian and Brian.
Okay, we'll move on. Item number 4, old business. First item there, 4A, is to approve August 2024 meeting minutes. I reviewed the meeting minutes. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, so.
Yeah, I have no objections.
Okay, so no objections. We'll move that to work session. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, so item 4B, schedule a public hearing to adopt a Westchester Borough Transportation Committee. This was approved by council last August. We have a draft of an ordinance here. I've reviewed it. It looked very, very similar to the scope document we put together. So I guess we just need to put a meeting on the books to schedule this. Do you have one in mind, Sean?
Dana, the human calendar, October 16th would be our business meeting in October. Yeah.
Any conflicts with October 16th?
No, I don't see any.
Okay. Any objections? Any comments from the audience, the public tonight? Okay. And the next order of business, old business, discuss amendments to council rules and procedures. There's an attachment for this as well. And if you could just walk us through what changed in this, or I didn't see anything that stuck out to me when I reviewed the document.
No, nothing's, no proposed changes. There are some, what this is a document that explains particular rules that aren't spelled out in the either home rule charter or administrative code. Things like how an agenda, how items get added to the agenda. Things like how, if you don't have a quorum, another member of council can sit in on a committee meeting. So on and so forth. These are things that we have been following as a practice, and I keep reciting and looking back at. But what we do need to change, and Danik, help me out here. I think that what we do need to change is the method by which agendas can be amended. So we bring it into compliance with Act 65. And forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head if we've done that with this draft, but that was the minimum that we have to do. And it's just an opportunity to revisit and see if you want to make any other changes.
Bill, could you scroll up so we can see the rest of them?
So I don't see anything under the agenda section here that looks different. So if we need to add something to comply with. Should add that here.
No, I believe we should add that as far as amending the agenda in congruence with Act 65. I believe there's 3 sets of criteria that need to be met before amending an agenda.
Was there anything else that the committee wanted to do? Because we could make those changes and revise this draft and move it forward to work session next week If there's no other things that you think council wants to do about rules and procedures, then we could just move that ahead and just make that one change to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with that. I mean, I do think maybe there should be, excuse me, a mention being made about following Robert's Rules of Order pertaining to votes and procedures within a meeting.
Anything in particular you want to call out there that we should highlight? It's a pretty thick book.
I would have to say when there's a motion to be made that would have to be, including Robert's Rules of Order, it would have to be seconded regarding the tabling of items. There would have to be a motion and a second, and there's no further discussion with that. It's just a straight up or down vote, whether we want to move something back to committee or move it from an agenda, one part of a meeting or an agenda to another part.
The only other question I would have regarding this set of rules, because these are our rules, but is there a better home for them? Because right now, I don't think they're not part of the code, not part of the home rule charter.
They're not part of the code or home rule charter, so those would require more extensive and expensive edits to make happen. But the administrative code and home rule charter reference these rules and procedures. So as long as we keep the documents together and we keep them in front of council and we keep them part of the orientation procedure and we keep practicing, I think we can get it right.
Fine with me. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah, I'm
good.
okay. Yep.
Any any public comment? Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. One item of new business, and this sort of came up kind of spontaneously, resulting from the Westchester University's move-in week. And it's regarding coverage for enforcement officers. We had a lot of pop-up issues over that weekend in particular, where we had police presence, we had police enforcement, we did not have codes enforcement or parking. And I think I received a bunch of calls, complaints, emails. A lot of those got passed on to those two departments. So the question here, I guess the discussion item is there a way that we can provide some overtime coverage when we typically don't staff, when we have these special events or when they're known, so that we can handle them accordingly? So I brought this agenda up, so I didn't know if you had anything to add to that.
I mean, my only question is, what would be specific for a codes officer to be working that weekend?
Yeah, I think the largest issues we had were trash. And I think in the past, we kind of discussed if whether trash could be also, if it can't be handled by, most of it's commercial trash. And we can also have this discussion item in Public Works as well. If there's a way to hand over an issue to our Public Works department and have them deal with it. So versus waiting 3 or 4 days for the commercial trash service to come and pick up something that really should be handled by so most of it is related to trash and parking. And so that's what the building and housing would be handling, to answer your question.
Thank you.
So how do we move forward with this? Because I feel like it's an opportunity. But obviously it requires, staffing. I mentioned overtime. I don't know that we would have to pay overtime. There may be a way to handle it in a different way. This is where I'd look for your guidance, Sean.
Sure, thank you. We're looking at resources and costs right now with third party and also part-time off hours. Those will all come with a cost. We don't know what that is yet. So it's a discussion I'd like to continue at a later date once we have responses. I know Sally did, in spite of everything that's been happening the last few days, did keep her meeting with our third party to go over that. That happened, I think today. The days are blending in my head, sorry. So we should have more information on that in the next, couple weeks for sure.
Yeah, it sounds good. So maybe one thing.
Our first, not to get too far ahead of tomorrow's smart growth meeting, but we did talk mostly about catching up on rental license inspections and making sure we can keep up.
Okay, sounds good. Maybe a next step here could be also identifying some dates where we would, looking at the calendar and finding out where we'd actually need some additional coverage on Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're good questions and they need to be answered. I know at one time, Public Works was staggered. They used to work a half day on Saturday. Maybe that's an alternative. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll add this to the next ACT committee meeting to continue to kind of talk about it and kick it around a little bit. Maybe come up with some recommendations later. Any comments, public comments on this item? Okay. All right. Any other business? Okay. Seeing none, we are adjourned at 5:58.